Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that video. And for those of you who are new, these are the videos where I talk about a bunch of different topics, but anything that I have I can link you back to. I'll be putting that video in the description box, and I also answer questions that have come in the past week or so. So let's get to the topics of today. One of the things that I've been getting into now is starting to dehydrate some of my spring herbs coming in. I mentioned last Monday about the camellia flowers. Those are still blooming. I'm still picking them as they bloom and getting them dehydrated. And here's the jar I have so far. And this would actually almost fill up a quart jar, but because to really save space, I take the tamper that Patrick made me and I just smash them down. I don't want to powder them. I just want them to take up less room, and I can smash them down and really fit a lot more. So I've been doing that with a lot of my herbs to help save space in the pantry and use less jars. And then here, I was hoping to pick some this morning, but unfortunately we're having a dark, rainy day because, well, it's Rain Country and that's what it does here. So when that happens, my dandelion flowers do not open, and I like to pick them when they're open, but I have got started on picking and dehydrating some dandelion flowers. I have a lot in storage from the last couple of years because I don't work through them quite that quickly, but I'm going to start using them more now for teas, both fresh and dried through the year. So I do use them for teas and have, but I want to start using them more, incorporating them more because of their many benefits, which I have a video out a few years old on the benefits of dandelions, and I believe I talk about the stems. I know I talk about the leaves, the roots, and the flowers, so I'll be linking to that in the description box down below. Also, what I have here is the first of my green onions. These were the ones that came back from last year. I always have some that will make it through the winter and start growing again in the spring, and then others that never come back, but I just replenish them by ordering another bunch from Misfits Market, cut those up and either use them in a meal right away or dehydrate them. And then I take the white parts and plant them into my different pots on my front and back decks. So I have two pots on the back deck that only has one onion that made it through the winter. So those, I'm filling both of those up, but one of my pots out front, all of the onions survived the winter. So that was great. So I'm getting started on those. And then here I've got some feverfew, one of the other early herbs that's ready to start harvesting, and nettle, lots and lots of stinging nettle right here. I've got a colander full of it here. So I'm getting started on that. The nettle is great for us, for your pets, and for the chickens. So I use it a lot in teas anymore because it's so nutrient dense. I use fresh nettle as a vegetable. I usually mix it in with other vegetables, as you can see in this image right here. And in fact, last year I think it was, I did a video on cooking with nettle, and I'll link to that in the description box down below if you're curious on some of the ways you can use it. But I also dehydrate it up and add it to my chickens' feed because it's so healthy for them. They'll go all around the nettle during the whole year. They won't eat it fresh, but if you dehydrate it up, it does neutralize the sting, and so they love eating it dried. So just add it right into their food along with some other great herbs like chicory and more. And I do have a video out on that as well I did last year, and I'll link to that in the description box down below, where I talk about herbs that are just good for chicken health and help to prevent viruses. That's all for these particular herbs, but the ones that are going to be ready real soon are my valerian leaves. They're really coming along quickly. In fact, I've already been starting to pick some and just eat them fresh. And the horehound's about ready. The lemon balm and pretty much all of my other mints are going to be ready real soon. I'm seeing my chocolate mint popping up, my peppermint, and then the mojito mint is usually one of the first ones to start taking off. My cat mint is another. So those are all going to be ready real soon. So those will be the next ones I start digging into. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to talk about was craft projects I have going on. So I have this, some of you have seen me show it in some other videos of how I use sock tops to make a wool quilt. Well, one thing I always forget about when I mention that same quilt in those videos is that I didn't just use sock tops. So old wore out sock tops, wool sock tops, were part of what made up that quilt. The other parts were made up from some of a wool blanket I got at a garage sale that had big holes in it. And so I cut that up and used some of that. And I also had found a couple of small wool baby sweaters and cut those up and put them in the quilt. So there's actually several different things that went into this quilt. So you can see the picture of it right here, right after I finished it. Well, I did that. I can't remember how long ago it was I made that quilt, but it's been quite a while. And a lot of times I will make quilts to lay down on the floor in the living room because I like to sit on the floor, and then the grandbabies now are there. And I just like to have something there to partly protect the carpet, but something nice just to sit on, as well as use it to cover with if I need to. Well, because of that, because there's a lot of activity that would go on now, I was using that like that for quite a few years. A lot of those older fabrics, not so much the sock tops, it was one of the baby sweaters and parts of that wool blanket have developed holes because it's been so well used, and those fabrics were already old to begin with. So what I've been doing is taking some more of the sock tops that I've saved from old socks that I don't wear anymore because now I'm a total darn tough sock girl. And so I'm taking those old sheep socks, or the ones that just got holes in them, and I've been cutting them up and making patches. And since I'm still not sewing with my treadle machine right now, still needing to give my knee time to fully heal up, then I've been stitching them on by hand, just using a whip stitch and just covering up all those holes and any thin spots I find. So here's a picture I took the other night of what it's looking like so far. And it's pretty much, I keep finding more and more thin spots, but you'll see most of them are in the center because, well, that was the part that got used the most when it came to laying it down on the floor. It's going to be pretty much covered with patches, but I'm really liking it. It actually makes it warmer, and it's going to make it more sturdy, and it just adds some more character to it. Well, that was one of the projects I'm working on. The other one is a doll that I have been making for my granddaughter. All she needs right now is her eyes, and I'm going to show her to you. This has been quite the project. So there's her hair. So I was waiting on the hair until I saw for sure what color her hair was going to be, which it looks like it's going to be dark brown. And I don't know if it's going to be curly like mine or not, but that's just how it ended up. So the hair you make by crocheting each of these strands or locks separately, and there's several layers. There's like 4 layers. So she's got a lot of hair. And I'm waiting on the eyes because I'm still trying to decide for sure what design I'm going to use to make the eyes, but I want to see what color her eyes are going to be. She's still a newborn, so it could be months before we see if her eyes are going to be blue or if they're going to be brown, because they could easily go either way. There's an equal amount of blue eyes and brown eyes from both sides of the family. Actually, more blue eyes from mom's side of the family. But anyway, I had found this pattern, the basic pattern that is. I'm always altering things as I make it. So I found it on Etsy. It was only like $2.25 and written in a whole bunch of languages. So if you're interested in crochet, I'll go ahead and link to it down below. However, just know that I made this with a hook that was more than twice the size of the one required because I want her to be good size. So the doll, if you follow the hook size and all for that, she'll be half this size. So she's pretty big. But some of the alterations I made was, well, the sweater. I made up the sweater pattern myself. And the original design had a long sleeve. And so what I did was I wanted her to have a spring dress with short, ruffly sleeves, and then made the cardigan to go over that. And then I made her shoes to match. You see that? And then I also, one of the other things I added was a slip underneath, just to make her more modest and just add something fun to it as well. But I didn't stop there. I also made her a hair tie, much like what I wear, because I figured that would be easiest. That way Rowan can take the hair tie and she can tie her hair back in a ponytail, do whatever she wants with it, rather than the big bow that basically is permanently attached to the head. I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted her to have options. So the shoes do come off, the socks don't come off, but everything else does come off. And I did go ahead and make her like a winter dress. So this one is long sleeves. I didn't put the ruffle on the bottom like the other one, but I did make the dress a little bit longer and then made little like ballet flats. So after I shoot this video, I'll change her clothes and take a picture of her in that, and then so you can see what she looks like. But yeah, it could be several months before I'm able to finish the eyes, but they won't take me long. I just want to make them the same color as my granddaughter's eyes. So anyway, it's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to be able to make this for my granddaughter. All right, so moving on to a few more topics. I want to mention that EMP shield I had mentioned in a couple of this and that's back. I want to bring that up again because one thing I didn't realize is if you're interested in protecting your different things, whether it be your solar setup, your vehicles, even the public power to your house from an EMP, that is the place to go. It's all American owned, all American made. And through the affiliate link I'll be putting down below, you can get $50 off each unit that you purchase. So they make them for everything. They make them for radios that include your ham radio, your ATVs, your RVs, obviously your house, and much more. So you just go in there and find what it is you need for your different setups. We do have the one now on the house for the public power. We're going to be putting one for our solar power, and then he did just put one in his dump truck, and he's going to be putting them in a couple of his of the other vehicles as well. So we have 2 videos coming out. One I still have to edit, the dump truck one where he installs the EMP shield and that, and then the one for the house, that's I think publishing this week, so I'll be publishing on Wednesday, I think. So you can learn more about it, but if you want to go check it out, remember that link, $50 off each unit. I mean, it's not cheap, but you know, to protect your items in case this happens and be able to use your vehicles and use your solar power or your public power, it is a nice insurance policy. And so that, and by the way, that also helps us out anytime you go through any of our affiliate links. That helps us out greatly and keeps us here making more content to share with you. So anyway, I wanted to throw that out there because I just learned that this morning. Now, a couple more questions that had come in. One is people in the video that came out about the golden milk, the recipe. Several people were coming in saying, well, you have to have black pepper. Do you need black pepper? And the answer is, and I thought I had mentioned this in the video, but because I mention stuff like this so often, half the time I don't remember what video I said what. You do not have to use black pepper with turmeric to make it more bioavailable in the body. Yes, it is a great one. It is the piperine in the black pepper that works in conjunction with the curcumin in your turmeric. However, there's other things that do that. And I have a video I did 3 or 4 years ago about, do you have to use black pepper with turmeric? And I'll link to that down below because I covered all kinds of different things. But here's just a couple that would apply to the golden milk. Well, since the golden milk was warmed, well, just heating turmeric alone will make it more bioavailable. Combining it with any kind of fat, like I added the butter, or you can add coconut oil, that will make it more bioavailable. Any fruit or vegetable that has quercetin in it, for example, like red pepper, will also make it more bioavailable. So it's actually quite broad. So if you don't like black pepper or don't want to add it to your golden milk, don't. Use something else that out of that whole long list. And there's many, many, many things out there you can combine it with. Then the other question that came in recently was, can I take wine that I already have and make my own wine vinegar? Well, absolutely, because when you're making vinegar, in the first 2 weeks, what's happening is the activity inside there, when it's all very bubbly, it's turning all the sugars in there into alcohol. So basically, you're already turning it into wine. The last 2 weeks, with the oxygen exposure, is what's turning then that alcohol into acetic acid. So if you already have, let's just say you have a whole bunch of wine, you don't drink wine, or you made a lot of wine, you got more than you can use. If you want to use that to make a wine vinegar, all you got to do is put it in like a half-gallon jar or 1-gallon jar, anything with a fairly wide open top, cover it with a cloth, and then leave it for at least 2 weeks so that the oxygen will convert that alcohol in the wine into vinegar. It's that simple. Now, personally, I wouldn't, if I had my homemade wine, I've got it for other purposes. I make vinegar out of everything else, and either way, it takes 30 days to make wine and 30 days to make vinegar. And that might sound confusing. It's like, well, how did you get wine in the first 2 weeks of making the vinegar? Well, it's not fully wine. It's just that most of the sugars by that point have been converted into alcohol. And then it starts that process at the 2-week mark is when it starts converting it into vinegars. But there'll still be sugars in there it's working through in that last 2 weeks. But with winemaking, what you're doing is you're preventing oxygen exposure for the whole 30 days approximately that it's going to take to make wine. That's why you use an airlock with water in it. Some people forget to add water to the airlock, so you're not going to see bubbles going through water if there's no water. So the water is what prevents the oxygen from going in, but also allows the gases to escape and come out of the airlock, so you're not building up pressure inside your jug when you're brewing your wine. But that's not necessary when you're making vinegar, like I have going back here. I have another batch of grapefruit peel vinegar, because you got a cotton cloth anyway. So the gases are going to keep escaping while it's getting oxygen exposure at the same time. So they're very similar. Either one is very similar to make, but there's that big main difference, and that is oxygen exposure for vinegar, no oxygen exposure for making wine. And then the last two things are just a couple of housekeeping things. If you are sending me an email from you're texting it to me from your phone, unless you give me an email address and say who you are, I'll have no idea who you are, because all I see is a phone number. And this past week, I had somebody send me several nice photos for the Dehydrating collaboration, and I don't know who it is. And when I reply, most of the time when I reply to those kind of messages, they never even get through to the person, because it's trying to send my email to a text message on their phone and it won't go through. Sometimes it does, I don't know why, but most of the time it does. I emailed this person back 3 times and I never did hear back. So if you were that person that sent me those images, several different emails of images, please make sure you let me know who you are. I'll probably still include the photos into the Dehydrating collaboration, but I'm just gonna not put a name with them. It's just gonna be blank. I'll just put the photos, no name. Just so you know, if you want to be credited for your image, then I need a name. And if you're texting me emails, or if you're texting me expecting and asking for a product list and you never get it, it's probably because you sent your message as a text rather than as an actual email. You can still do this from your phone, but you need to do it from your email account through your phone, not from a text message. But if you have to rely on text message to email, then at least give me a real email address that I can reply to. And then the other thing is, speaking of Dehydrating collaboration, I'm still collecting photos for that. Make sure you're taking good, non-blurry. Sometimes people send me some very blurry pictures, or they have a lot of clutter in the background, and it's really, I got to really work with the picture to try to get the focus on what is there. And sometimes I have to manipulate the image to try to make it clear if the image is not clear. These videos are the most time-consuming, complicated videos to put together because there's many layers. I'll have the background, the image, the name, the music, and then picking a color to match, to try to bring out the color of what's already in the image. It's a lot of work. It is so time consuming. For a 7 to 8 minute video, it takes me literally hours, sometimes a couple of days, to put one of those videos together. So if you want people to know what it is, put the labels on there yourself. I'll put your name or channel name, whatever it is you ask me to put there. But other than that, I'm not going to try to go through and label everything in every image. That is just too much extra work. I'd have to add another whole layer. I love doing these collaboration videos. I love them. But just understand, it is a lot of work. So as much as you can do to help make my job easier when I do this, it's really appreciated. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. Any thoughts, ideas you would like to share, please put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.